Ms. Fodor,
Present.
Ms. Jarnbro, absent. Mr. Kelly,
Present.
Mr. Coe,
Present.
Ms. Palastrellini here, and Mr. Robinson.
Present.
President Reed is also absent this evening. Could I please have someone make a motion to, I'm sorry, we've established a quorum. Can we, have a motion to appoint trustee Coe as president pro tem, please?
Second.
And Deputy Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mrs. Palastrellini. Aye. Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
And Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand for pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Lyons, do we have any public comments?
Sorry. This evening we have, Jim Meyer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jim Meyer.
Good evening. Just wanted to bring a couple things up. Under the recently approved ordinance about the following use for designated town streets, gas and electric golf carts and electric UTVs. I guess I'd just like to bring forth a proposal that seeks to amend the ordinance to also include gas UTVs. Denying gas UTVs, in my opinion, while allowing gas golf carts seems inconsistent with, and unless a clear safety or environmental distinction can be made, and none has been made publicly, to my knowledge. Gas UTVs are capable of maintaining and the same legal safe speeds as electric UTVs. Safety, performance, and vehicle specs are comparable in both gas and electric UTVs, just as gas and electric golf carts are comparable. Also, both the gas and electric UTVs, certain ones are built to meet or exceed safety standards already in place for low-speed vehicles, such as mandatory seat belts, mandatory seatbelt safety switch. You have to have a seatbelt on in order to even start the thing, and rollover protection, and front and rear bumpers and things, and doors that some UTVs have that golf carts don't have. That was just real quick. And gas powered UTVs used in Hampshire is logical, practical, and I think a fair amendment to the existing ordinance. And the amendment ensures that vehicle classification is based on function and safety, not fuel type alone. So I just respectfully request that the board reconsider the ordinance and vote to approve an amendment for that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your packet, you have the meeting minutes from June 5th. Please review them.
Motion to approve.
Been a motion to approve the minutes from June 5th. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions, concerns, issues? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Vogt.
Aye.
Mr. Palastrellini. Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor. Mr. Absent. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay. Do we have to close our thing to open the public hearing?
No, you don't have to. You can just declare the public hearing to begin.
Okay. So now we're moving into the public hearing. A public hearing for the proposed establishment of Special Service Area 32 for the Old Dominion project.
Mr. Coe, there's no one signed up to speak at the public hearing. So unless the board has any any comments, I can take a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we have to open and close each public hearing or?
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing.
We have to have one.
Do we need a motion to open the public hearing?
No,
Thank you.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call or?
I would do a roll call.
Okay.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
and Mr. Passes 4-0.
Mr. Coe, there's no one signed in to speak at that public hearing either.
Okay, this is the public hearing for proposed establishment for special service area 33 for the road ranger / McDonald project. No one is to speak, so entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, will our clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, C is a public hearing for the proposed establishment for special service area 34 for the Arrowhead Business Park project. Is there anyone signed up to speak for that?
There's not Mr. Coe, but I will mention Mr. Point is here from Point Ready Mix. And if you have any questions, he's here. But he and I've spoken in detail about this SSA.
Could you just remind me where that one is?
Behind the Wendy's. Any questions? A motion then is in order to close the public hearing for special service area 34.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, will our clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next on the agenda is a motion to approve an employment contract for Mr. Douglas Pan for Chief of the Police.
The staff recommendation is in favor. Even though we don't usually get one.
Do we get to Welland?
I to approve the employment contract for Chief and Chief of Police.
Second.
I was just gonna say, just to remind you, this is just a contract. He was appointed and sworn in previously, as you know.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the employment agreement for the Chief of Police with the Village of Hampshire.
I just have one question for Mr. Hedges, just to make sure my understanding is correct. I didn't see any differences between this and the previous contract, correct?
There's only one change, and that has to do with vacation.
Is he getting more?
It's one extra week.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Make sure to keep her busy up.
call. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the employment contract with the Chief of Police with the Village of Hampshire. Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
and the motion passes 4-0.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to number 8 on your packet, and we're gonna turn it over to our village manager, Jay Hedges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. At this time, I'm going to ask Mark Montgomery to take the floor for a minute, and you have in your packets a memorandum from him regarding lead service lines. This is just a discussion tonight. We will be asking for your action on July 17th at the board meeting that week, which is 3 weeks from now. But we wanted to give you some time to understand this and ask questions tonight. Mo will be operating the slides up here, which is slightly different than what you have in the packet, but basically the same information. So with that, Mark, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. As Jay mentioned, I was asked to come here and give you an update on the lead service line replacement program. Over the last few years, we've had a number of mandates that we've had to adhere to. Up to this point, it's been mostly data gathering. but we're coming to a crossroads where we're soon gonna have to start replacing some of these, lead service lines. So some hard decisions are gonna have to be made. To give you some background and where we've been and where we're going. We had to do a service line inventory, as you recall, where we had to go and determine what the material was in each and every service line in the village. There was 600 of them in the main downtown here that we simply had no records on, so that was an adventure. Through several different means, we learned that there are 17 homes in the village with lead service lines. We had to have that inventory in by April 15th of 2024, and that has to be updated every April 15th, so that's ongoing.
Mark, can I ask a question before, just because you're on the numbers? The last we had talked about it, there were some that we had to guess, or we had to opt that they did have lead in them because we couldn't get in there. Have we gone through all of them now?
We've pretty well gone through everything. There are some houses that we had to extrapolate
Okay,
because the entire neighborhood was built by a certain contractor, for example. And we know the rest of the neighborhood had copper service lines, so it was, we're allowed to make those type of reasoned calls that on our side, that they're copper throughout the neighborhood. So there was things like that, but for the most part, we're pretty well done with that material line in it.
thank you.
So, but it's a living, breathing document. If someone calls up and says, hey, anything can happen. So right now, as many of you know, we're doing the sampling right now for lead. And that started in January, and every 6 months until there's no lead in town, we're gonna have to do that. So we had, based on our population size, we had to do 40 sites, prioritizing the homes with lead service lines. So 23 sites I had to find, and many of you helped out. I appreciate that. And then we had the 17 that had lead service lines. With that information, we have to determine what the 90th percentile value is and report on that. I'll explain that a little more in another slide coming up. Coming up, due on April 15th of 2027, we have to come up with our final lead service line replacement plan. I've had initial ones that I've had to get in every 15th of April, but in 2027 is the final one. And then rubber meets the road, beginning in 2027, we have to start replacing them by law at a rate of a minimum of 7% a year. In our case, that's 2 per year. At this time, I'll take you to the next slide, Mo, and reintroduce you to what what some of the requirements are and what it is. You can see out in the street, there's a water main, and then there's off the water main, there's a service line that comes into the house. Where the B box is, which is typically between the sidewalk and the street, is the shutoff valve. The public side, we have responsibility for, and then from the B box into the house, the homeowner has that responsibility. The village is not required to pay for any removal on that side of the B box. And that's one of the decisions that needs to be made. How are we going to handle that? Go to the next slide here. So like I said, some policy decisions are needed at this point. Number one, what is the scope of these projects going to look like? Are we going to go to these 17 services and just simply change them out to the existing water main? We've got a quote or an estimate of $15,000 a piece times 17 sites. That's $255,000. Again, we only need to do 2 per year if we decide to do that tract.
So that 255 is going up because unless they do them all 1 year, each year those contracts for the operators, laborers and all that renew that. So it's going to be green. Okay.
Yep. Nothing seems to go down.
So that's $255,000 in 2025 dollars.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because we just got a quote to do one. So we're basing it off of that. So Are we gonna just merely change them out to the existing, water main? Or are we gonna do a broader street upgrade? Right now, we have EEI doing a study because, a majority of our 17 sites are on two different neighborhoods on the same line. They're old 4-inch lines that, yeah. So we haven't planned for in the master plan to replace 4-inch lines. That's in some out years, but since we have to tear up the road anyways, do we want to do a holistic neighborhood upgrade with the water and sewer and that type of thing?
Can I ask about we back up to the 15,000, does that 15,000 cover from the water line to the B box?
To the
or from
meter.
Water line to the home?
To the home. We have to go 18 inches into the basement and connect to the meter.
From the B box to the home.
It includes both sides.
Yeah,
So it includes the entire line?
the entire line,
Because I'm looking
15,000.
up there in the who pays section and it says, will homeowner pay the private portion, or are you getting to that?
Yep, I'm getting to that
Okay.
one.
Okay,
So that's the 900-pound gorilla in all this. Who's gonna pay for it? The village is responsible for the public portion of the service line. The homeowner is responsible for their side. And that's in our code, and most towns are like that. The law states that we do not have to pay for it, but they want the whole line removed. If you choose to do that option and you get a homeowner that just refuses, then there's EPA waivers that they can sign and they can take responsibility for that. We still have to change our side of the service line. So that'll get a little messy. Or does the village set policy that we're just gonna change the whole line? Which, as an operations guy, that's attractive to me because it seems like there's a lot less to deal with. I struggle to get people to participate doing sampling. I can't imagine asking them to come up with half of $15,000 for this. So that's my viewpoint. And then we've come into this situation. What do we do about the sites that exceed the MCL? The MCL is the maximum contaminant level. And if we get one of these sampling sites that goes above the 15 parts per billion, what do we do with them? By law, we don't have to do anything until 2027. That could be potentially bad public relations look. That we have somebody with a known contaminant level that's over the EPA level, or do we replace them as we find them? That's a good look, but it's setting a precedent. We happen to have one site that is above the MCL, and I'll get to that on the next slide. I'll explain that. And the rest of them are below it, but that doesn't mean the next sampling round, we could have 5 more. I don't think we will, but they're drinking out of a lead line, so.
Quick question before you go to the next slide. Under the who pays, I understand that there were reports that even during the sampling, there were some homeowners that just weren't responsive or providing the samples that had lead lines.
Yes.
If the board says, no, we need to pay for this, and the homeowner denies because you have to be able to go into the home, like you said, into the basement, connect to the meter, and the homeowner denies access to be able to do that, do we still then do an EPA waiver?
Yeah, there's an EPA waiver for people who refuse.
So the EPA waiver is just if somebody refuses. The
Yeah.
question really is whether we have the homeowner pay or we pay.
Yes.
Regardless of what that decision is, an EPA waiver is needed for anybody refusing either
Right.
of those. Okay.
And in those situations, we still have to change out our side to the B box.
Right.
So.
So Mark, then on that, because you had said all the way up into the house, 18 inches in, and if they won't let us in there, for how far do we have to go?
To the B box.
Just to the B box then? Okay.
Yeah.
And that we would need a waiver for
And then
because,
there's an EPA waiver for those situations with people who are refusing.
okay,
And there's people that do.
Okay.
You hear about that and they've got a special waiver for that and then they assume the responsibility and we're washed of it. By my.
You think they're against it because they're afraid they gotta come up with 10 grand, 7 grand, whatever it's gonna be?
I've heard of communities that have opted to pay the whole line
Yeah,
and there's still people refusing to let them in.
There's some people.
There's just some people that are difficult.
So let's say I own one of these properties where that pipe is going into my house and I don't want you to replace it. Can I sell my house knowing there's a lead line going?
you have to disclose it.
I'd have to disclose that to the buyer, right? Okay,
I would imagine.
okay.
And as a follow-up to that, would that then, the EPA waiver, would that indemnify the village for all future buyers? For owners of the house?
Well, that's a bigger question than I
Question
can
we haven't
answer.
really addressed yet. It's a good question.
Okay.
My understanding is that we're in the clear because somebody signed that waiver, but, after they sell the house, I've not considered that.
Okay.
Well, there's an answer for that.
Okay.
Gazillion.
I have a lot of assumptions, but I don't like to make.
Is there a
decisions
legal
based on-
opinion on that question?
No. I mean, I would think if the waiver is, this is not a formal opinion, but I would think if the waiver is signed, that would release the village from any liability.
As a homebuyer, I'm assuming.
Mark, since you've been involved with this whole thing, have you heard of any federal, state grant money, especially in bigger communities like Chicago that probably has a gazillion of these things?
I've heard of it, but I'm not versed in that.
Okay.
It's,
Lori, I can address that. Excuse me, there are EPA loans, which is one of the options for funding projects like this. In communities with less than a household, lower than the average household income.
Right.
Low to moderate income, as we often talk about, we're above that. So there would be no forgiveness. There might be loans that we could get, but there would be no loan forgiveness, so no grants.
Okay.
Have we reached out to our congressman and asked about lead line replacement? Because it's a constant issue everywhere, and I know a lot of the little towns have, and I swear some of them have gotten grants, and that's why I'm kind of surprised. But I think it's definitely worth looking at to see first before we make a decision to pay or to not to pay. Because of course, if you can get the government to help to pay some of it, that is.
Are you talking about a member initiative grant?
Nope, just a EPA grant, so.
We're not aware of any programs that we've looked for that. We're not aware of any programs specific to this.
Have you asked for the Congressional Research Bureau to look into it and to come back to you? I would highly urge you to do that because they can do research and go and find any grant anywhere that would cover lead lines. And it's a common thing throughout the entire state, so we're not the only ones that are doing it. So I think
Yeah.
there might be something out there.
I think those are good things for us to look at, but I think when we look at it, should we pay this or not, having just gone through this with the Public Works building and unsure if we're getting $2 million that was granted and promised, and I'd be nervous for us to make a decision counting on a grant. I think if we made the decision without counting on it, but still pursued that, that's like a bonus, right? Then it's great. We can offset the budget then. But the decision being irregardless of the approval of that grant, just do we think we should pay or not? And then, pursue all of those alternatives. Because I'd hate for us to vote yes and then.
Because the money would
Pay
come
for
to
it.
us. It wouldn't come to the homeowner at that point if we got a grant.
Right, because we would have a contract with the construction firm doing it.
anything else? We'll go to the next slide then. I'll show you the results of our sampling. You can see that we ranked them in ascending order. And first thing you should notice that the ones in gray are the ones with lead service lines. Anything not in gray has 0 lead in it. So if you don't have a lead service line, you don't have lead. When there's no lead in the water, lead comes from leaching out from plumbing fixtures, the lead pipe being an obvious one coming into the house. When we rank these from lowest to highest, we're made to pick out the 90th percentile. which you can see highlighted in the yellow, is at 1.79. The parts per billion. They have us do that because we're, if we go over the MCL on our 90th percentile, then we're kicked in a different level of, we have to go and perform a corrosion control study and then implement the study. But we're well below the MCL for our 90th percentile.
Sorry, MCL stands for.
Maximum contaminant level.
Okay. So if the 90th percentile was over the 15 parts per billion, then we have an issue.
Yes. What that shows is that our corrosion control program is working well. Because that's why we put phosphate in the water. We condition the water so that it's less corrosive and leaches less lead out of the fixtures in the home. The one troublesome thing with this study is that we have one resident that is over the MCL. And that's where I started asking the question, what do we do about this? I had to do a number of, mandated to do a number of things. I had to go and retest them. I had to test water within, I believe it was within a half mile of the resident on the same water line. I had to do a little mini corrosion control study on their water. And
The higher it gets, the worse it is for the residents' health or anyone drinking from those waters. It's not an issue to take lightly, basically.
right. He's above the maximum contaminant level, which is considered safe
Well,
by the EPA.
on the first one, he's almost 300% of the level. And if it went higher than that,
Yeah.
he or she or the resident,
Yeah.
wherever they may be, it's even higher
Yeah.
than that. Yeah.
So my understanding is an elderly gentleman lives there and probably uses very little water. So when we go to sample, it's just sky high. Probably doesn't get flushed hardly ever.
And that means that when they go to take a glass of water from the faucet, it's sky high. If they're drinking from
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So I would love to, I got a quote to do it from start. They can do the whole thing for $15,000.
And that's what you base the,
That's what I base that on.
Mark?
So we're kind of at a crossroads where we got to start making some of these decisions.
I have a question. If we were to replace that one, would that drop our 90th percentile level?
It sure would. It would knock him right off the list. He'd no longer have a lead service line.
Right, because that one is insanely high
Yeah.
compared to that. So
Yeah.
would that change the perspective of our MCL and what our 90th percentile would be, and therefore the timeline in any way, or would it read?
Timeline is what it is. We have to, by law, start taking these out in 2027
Okay.
at a rate of 7% a year.
Roughly 2 a year.
To trustee voter's question though, if you remove one outlier of 44.8 on this chart,
Mhm.
your 90th is no longer 1.79. It's probably the 1.01 or even the 0.97. I mean, it significantly changes. So what does that change for?
Right, but all they're doing is taking the 90th percent of the 40 samples. So the 36 sample
Right.
in this will still be there. To your point, if we were to change it out before we sampled them again, yes, that might be lower. At that, where the number 36 sample is.
Right,
Mhm.
Will probably be lower.
right. So it would move that yellow up
Which
to
doesn't
maybe
matter.
the 30th. Does that change timelines or anything?
No, we have to start taking these out 2027.
It'll just alleviate the largest problem,
Right.
really. I mean, all those lines need to get changed regardless of the number.
Yeah, even the ones that are zero, because we've got some zeros there, 5 or 6 of them in the leads, they still need to come out.
Mhm.
Oh, but because it's not over 15, it really doesn't matter. It's either gonna be low or lower. It's not like it makes us not of
Right,
compliance.
it's the 36th sample, whatever that one is our 90th percentile. So it turned out better. I didn't know what to expect, frankly. You know, you're sampling out of known lead service lines, and it was, for me as the operator, I was pleased to see our 90th percentile so far below the 15 MCL. But we've got that one out there.
I guess just my opinion for the board on this one, on like, should we pay, should we not pay? When you look at the addresses that are included in here, that's the older part of town. And if we look at 17 and, you know, whether you do it in 1 year, 2 years, whatever that time frame looks like, this is the first time that we've been mandated to test whether there's lead lines. So I doubt that anyone who bought these homes knew they were buying a home with a lead line. So it's not like they assumed that responsibility. And we've increased our capital fees to help cover capital projects. And this is one that was identified under that moniker of 50 or $60 million in total capital projects that we may need to do. So I feel like we're collecting a fee already that's meant to pay for something like this, especially something that's a health risk. I would personally hate to ask a resident to pay for that, especially 15K doesn't seem like a lot. 255K seems like a lot more, but if you can stagger it over 2 years, okay, a water tower costs us $900,000 to paint and refurbish the inside and all the additional things. But this directly affects people. And the number 40, the 152 South, I think that needs to be done like ASAP. And following Mark's recommendation, connected to the front. Like, I don't even think that, personally, I don't see a debate in that.
Will he let you
Is that
do
We'll
it?
be recommending
That
that
was
you
my question.
do that on the 17th, and Lori has money in the budget this year for one, as well as some engineering work to study the others.
Will this
So we will,
resident-
but that will be precedent setting it. We believe if you do one, then you're probably committing to do the
I
other
think we'll
16 over the
press
next 5 years.
Well, the village put these lines in however many years ago. I mean, it's our responsibility to take them out. They are.
Right.
And we will certainly look to see if there's any grant funds available.
Will that resident let you in the house to do the line?
We'll send them a letter.
Okay.
I think he will.
Yeah.
We know him.
Do all
You
these
won't know.
people know how much, I mean, that the lead is in their pipes? I mean, they've gotten letters that have told them, and have they called with questions or to
Not
ask?
really. I've been surprised how little interest there is in this.
Can we supply them a filter for the faucet that takes the lead out of it temporarily?
Sure.
Until we
Meantime.
replace it.
Because, I mean, it's your shower.
Maybe we ought to go to Menards and get a bunch of them.
I have some at the shop. I keep them on hand because if any of these get disturbed by rule, I have to supply that. And after we change it out, I believe for 6 months, we have to supply
Do
them
it.
with a filter.
For all.
And it's just a little pitcher that, you know, you pour in there and there's a filter on top.
Oh, you can't screw something on in the faucet?
No, it's just it's a pitcher, real low tech.
It's like a brain.
What about like showers? Because it's
Wait.
spraying lead all over you and your skin is your
You'll just be shiny.
absorb everything. Not funny, but funny. I mean, is there anything that we could give for the shower?
I've not heard anything
Okay.
as far as that being a health
Okay.
problem.
Can I speak to that? As a person who grew up in a house built in the 1880s that had lead lines, it is generally considered safe to shower or bathe in water that may contain lead, as lead is not absorbed through the skin.
Okay.
However, if you're one of the people who likes to brush your teeth in the shower, maybe don't do that. If you know that you have, I know. Means you find out really terrible things about people, and I just thought, no, if it's not one of the things that you can have that in your water. So, that's where it gets violent.
You don't have a tie.
I just.
I do think due to your question earlier, Mark, Mr. Hedges had this statement when we did the beautification downtown and we replaced a bunch of stuff, is if you're gonna do it right. I know we're gonna get to it here in a second on the Baldwin Alley, and that was one of the questions on one of your slides of like, do we connect to the 4-inch or do we actually do it right? I don't see a financial justification to do the wrong thing that you don't know if it's gonna work, and then you're gonna have to fix it down the road anyway. Like, we should just be fixing it. It's my opinion. I don't like, would you connect to a 4-inch if you had an option?
No,
Okay.
but there's
That's-
financial considerations.
Understood,
Yeah.
understood, but I think there's also downstream financial effects that end up happening if you just put duct tape on it, right?
The thing that's troublesome for me is I know that there's out years in the master plan where you have a goal of getting rid of these 4-inch mains. These are two of them. And we're gonna be cutting into that street to replace lead service lines. So that doesn't mean we have the money right now to do it, but so you're gonna be cutting into the street twice.
So we sat around this table today with EPI and discussed not just this, but primarily the long-term capital plan. And we plan to come back to you in August with a recommendation to pay for this one, as well as to authorize $120,000 for EPI to study the other two projects so that they can come back to us and tell us what the budget will be. And then we can tell you when we think we can do the larger project, the Baldwin Alley and Terwilliger and the whole thing.
Mark, how long is that 4-inch line, that water main on, was it Oak?
The 200 and 300 blocks. And then Terwilliger, it is the 100 block, I think 4 inches.
So you're looking at 300 feet on each one.
There's substantial costs, probably in the $1 million range by the time we get it all.
Mark, could you, remind me, I'm flipping through this and I'm not seeing it then. So if we replace and just reconnect to the 4-inch, it's a certain amount of money, and I think it was 180,000 on there. Is the 255 to do it from the front end and connect to the larger pipes?
Having trouble following, and I believe you're looking at that report that I.
Yep.
There.
You had said that connecting to the 4-inch 100-year pipe would cost about $180,000.
Which page are you referring to?
Two, so 14 of the packet
Here.
at the top.
Oh, sorry.
Specifically in referencing the 12 locations off of Baldwin and the 100 block of Terwilliger.
This is the 255.
The 250 is from this presentation.
Okay, that's why I don't have that. Okay, thank you.
If you read above that, I'm specifically talking about the 12 that are in the Baldwin Alley, 100 block of Terwilliger, 200 and 300 blocks of Oak Street. So there's 12 that are on those streets. So to just do them one at a time and not do an overall holistic project, that would be the 180. There are, what then, 4 or 5 that are just random out there. We can just change them out to the main that's out in front.
If we.
This 4-inch, that 4-inch water main is pre-World War II, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
Will it take, retapping?
The funny thing is, I've never had a problem with oak.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the oldest in town. I've never had a problem with it. I've got newer stuff with more problems than.
They built them to last.
They changed the steel. Anyway.
I wish
Yeah.
Park was as hardy. Park blows up all the time on the 100 block.
So can you remind me then what the 255,000 is?
That was for 17 total.
17 total by reconnecting to the 4-inch?
Yes, 12 of them are connected to 4 inches.
Okay.
There's then 5 others that are just randomly out there that have an 8-inch to go to.
Okay, so
we're good
those-
to go.
I think
Okay.
the 180 is a fraction of the 255.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
And then,
It's the 12. With those 12, you can just take them back to the 4-inch main or do a greater upgrade of the street.
and what would be the greater upgrade cost then if we didn't go back to the 4-inch?
That's what I said, we're gonna have EEI study.
Oh, that's what we're
Yeah.
still
Probably
working
over $1
on.
million.
Okay.
And it's in our capital plan, it's just that we would have to pull it up a few years, potentially. And not do some other things that are in the plan. So that's really all we have for you tonight. We just wanted to lay it out there and answer any questions, and you have 3 weeks to study it. Feel free to contact me in the meantime. And we're happy to have obviously a further discussion when the motion comes up on the 17th.
I just have one clarifying question on the Baldwin one, which is page 16 of the packet, page 4, in this report. You'll have to correct me if my colors are off, so I apologize, but a lot of these are not lead service lines. There are multiple on your sheet here that are different colors that are either unknown, because I think one said it was underneath a tree or underneath different things,
That's
right?
correct. And I was amazed when I did the inventory, how many people on their own changed out their own services over the years. I don't know if they got.
Well, and that was gonna be my question, since there are non-lead service lines connected to a 4-inch pipe, when you have EEI study to do, what would it cost to do things the right way?
Yeah.
Would you reconnect even non-lead
Yes.
service to the new
We
main?
would discontinue the 4-inch and they go out to the
Okay.
front. This is a unique situation. There's
So
a-
when we look at that cost, that is not just for the lead service, that would be for that entire
That whole
community that's
neighborhood.
connected to the 4-inch.
Yep, you're going out the front to either Jackson or Grove. It's an oddball out there. They put in a random 4-inch main down the alley and all the homes go out the back to it. So there's a main already there. That one's, to me, is less intense than Oak Street because there's already a main there. They just need to cut open the street and directionally bore these lines in. But you're gonna have, I think it was 20 or 22 homes off of that line. And I call it the Baldwin Alley, Baldwin.
Yeah, and I was just using that one because that was one I had noticed. It's the first map, but I had
Yep.
noticed that it wasn't just lead service lines. So when we're talking in August, when we start to see these things, just for us to realize it's not just the lead service this would fix, it would be everybody on the
Yep.
Terwilliger, the Oak, and the Baldwin.
Correct.
Okay. And didn't we dig up Terwilliger not too long ago? Couple of-
Blacktopped it in front of the school.
Well, I thought from like state down, did we just blacktop and cover that, or did we actually replace some pipe on Terwilliger? We haven't, and,
Oh, we haven't replaced anything.
okay, I thought we had.
No, we replaced a bunch of broken lines over.
There's a bunch of patches where there's been
Oh, okay.
water main breaks.
So we have dug in and done things there, just,
17 or 18
Yeah.
or
Not
something.
recently. I mean, there haven't really been any
Couple-
Yeah, we have.
recent ones. I mean, for a
For
while,
a
it was
while.
really troublesome all the time. Yeah, there you go.
Edgewood's my bad boy. That street's always popping. That and 100 block of arc.
Anything else, Mark?
That'll do unless you got any questions. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for your report.
Thanks, Mark. With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for your consideration of a resolution approving professional services agreement with EEI Inc. for Phase 3 engineering services for the Safe Routes to School project in the amount of $47,468. You have an agenda supplement in your packet from Mr. Paulson on page 20, and he is online to answer any questions.
Mr. Paulson, how much have we already paid EEI for the Safe Routes to School program?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I think it was about 30 to 35 for phase 1 and the same for phase 2.
And what's the difference between those and what you're going to do in phase 3?
Phase 3 is the construction phase out in the field. So, per IDOT, we have to have a resident engineer out there the whole time, laying it out, collecting, doing the measuring, collecting all the material tickets on site. So there's a scope in the agreement that shows all the items that we would do. It's on the page numbers are overlapping. I think it's on page 27 of the packet.
So, sorry, the math isn't mathing to me, but I'm also tired, so I apologize if my questions are off here. On page, I can't see this, page 20 of the packet, in the memo, it says
Okay.
EEI has drafted the attached joint funding agreement, which authorizes the village local match of $279,191.50. The grant was for $250,000. So our match is $29,191.50 above what the grant amount is. We're actually funding more than that, which is understandable.
Right.
They get it as a max amount. Does this take into account the $47,468 for phase 3 or any of the payments of phase 1 and 2?
It does take into account the phase 3 engineering.
But not phase 1 and 2 that we've already paid?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so if we had 60, let's ballpark 60,000 on top of that, then the village will have paid 340,000. And the state's giving us 250. Is that correct?
250. Correct.
And is phase 3 the last amount for EEI? Is that the
Correct.
final phase?
Yes, that's the final phase.
Thank you.
Can I ask about the Rubino proposal? Because it's part of it. Is that separate? I mean, I get that it's only for the testing and that's for the construction phase of it. So is that something that EEI put out a proposal for? Because I remember seeing something out there that a proposal was there.
They would be a sub-consultant to EEI. When sampling is required, they would take samples in the field and then provide us the lab reports that then we would compile for IDOT.
And what they're gonna do is, they're gonna take cylinders of concrete and they're gonna take it back to their lab, correct?
Yes, and then there's certain,
They think he didn't explain it,
break
they take a bunch of cylinders, and they take them back to their lab, of course, and they crack them. For testing for PSI, pounds per square inch.
at certain days.
It's part of the agreement
It
that
is
we
part
have
of
in
the-
front of us from IDOT. And it included Rubino in there as well. That's why I was trying to find out how Rubino was selected and I know I read someplace that there was
There was
consultant taken.
Rubino was our selected consultant.
Okay,
Our selected tester. For phase 3 engineering, there was a request for qualifications by the village. And EEI was selected as that. And in our qualifications, Rubino was in our qualifications as our sub-consultant.
okay.
They have to be certified.
That's fine. I just wasn't sure how they got on it and it was on the actual contract already with IDOT. That's why I was just wondering. Oh, got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve EEI's phase 3 engineering services in the amount of $47,468. There a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other further questions?
Right. Sorry, just one. The construction schedule on page 28 of the packet, Exhibit B project schedule, was that set by EEI or IDOT? It's got the start of construction and the construction project. Was it all?
That's a guess based on, that EI put, together based on the September, target letting date, yeah. And how long it takes to get through the process from letting to a contractor starting. That's from EI, yes.
Thank you.
Any further? Motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor. Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for consideration of a resolution approving a joint funding agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the Safe Routes to School project. This is on page 58 of your packet.
Ask just a question, because I know on the map that we have on page, what is that, 53 or 53? Where the safe routes is it on both sides of the street or just one? Because there's sidewalks on both, or depending on the side of, like State Street,
It's generally just on one side. Of the
just
street.
on, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But some of them have sidewalk already on the other.
I know. That's why I was.
We have to approve a resolution? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for joint funding agreement with IDOT. The
Sir.
Safe Routes to School program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor. Aye. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. With that, we'd ask for consideration of a resolution approving a letter of credit reduction for the Xena Arrow subdivision project from $610,812.31 to $73,205.94. This is on page 71 of your packet. This is the project at former Big Timber 20, and you see the project's just about completed.
Have there been any problems at all out there? Any complaints from
They've
anybody
done a
or?
really good job of maintaining the site, making sure that there's no erosion or anything. And Mr. Tina Hero he owns a lot of property up in that neighborhood. He's a really big guy.
Okay, I mean, it seems like it looks great and it's
He
neat.
made the color similar to the farmhouse to the south.
Yeah, no, I thought it looked good. That's why I was.
He's managed to get along with his neighbor to the east, who some of you know pretty well. That's it.
It's difficult.
And this is just for that construction, because it talks about the subdivision, and I know the owner also owns up to the corner and was looking at potential retail. That would be a separate letter of credit that they'd have to do for that
That's
project.
an entirely different project.
Right. Okay.
We've had a couple of leads.
And just make sure when we say subdivision, it's not that entire property, it's that project. Yeah.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion for a resolution approving the letter of credit reduction for the Tinahero subdivision project from $610,812.31 to $73,205.94.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions? Hearing none, will our clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
And Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. With that, we would ask for consideration of a motion to approve progress payments to Lamp Inc. in the amount of $577,399 for the Public Works Facility. This is on page 78 of your agenda supplement, and Ms. Lyons would be happy to answer any questions.
The one thing that I want to point out is in the analysis section of my agenda supplement, and that is the prior payments of $704,837. We're kind of wrapping that up into what we're going to call payment number one, which was actually a series of payments over time to Lamp Construction as a part of the $14 million guaranteed maximum price So, to date, there's been 1,297,429 in completion of this project. We have retainage on some of the pieces from this particular draw, so they're requesting a payment of 577,399.
And the 577,399 is the only amount that goes against our letter of credit right now,
Our line of credit.
our line of credit, sorry.
We're actually gonna draw a little over $600,000, which will include $24,000 in, amounts paid to ComEd to bring the electricity and, transformer and that type of stuff, electrical stuff, I'll call it, to the site. So, the 577 in combination with the amount, 24,000 and change that's in your accounts payable will be drawn on letter of credit. And that's part of the,
I just got a dumb question. Where are they putting the transformer? They're not gonna put it where the plows can hit it, or somebody drive off the curb and hit it. It'll be tucked away somewhere.
They just buried the connection box today. That big box that was up there all week, that's been buried today. That site is really active. I've never seen as much equipment on a site as there's up there. And yes, the transformers are not, actually, they are in stock, believe it or not. So they will be delivered on time. We learned that today. Dave and I attended the construction meeting, which is every Thursday today.
this is the 7th, I think, construction meeting they've had.
They're absolutely on schedule. In fact, on July 7th will be a big day. You start to see the walls go up. As they come right off the factory production line, they come over in a truck and they go up the same day, right? There'll be a line of trucks just going all up. And the week after, the 15th, steel will be going up. So we'll be under roof by October.
Wow.
Ms. Lyons, with the line of credit, then that will eat up the full amount that we have. And
No, our line of credit is $5 million.
it's fine. Okay.
Yes.
'Cause you said that 600,000, I'm like, okay, 500.
And we think that will carry us through about October when we expect to issue bonds.
Okay,
That's using the sales tax.
okay.
And I was gonna ask, how are we doing on the bond process?
It's still a bit of a process, so, ongoing, I guess is the best way.
We're on schedule to do October.
Yep.
But we really don't start meetings for that probably until middle of August or something.
I'd say.
Is the early feeling that the bond interest rate or the financial cost of the bond is higher or lower or equal to our financial cost of having a line of credit?
I would say, that Resource Bank was very generous to us. I would say the bond rate will be equal to or potentially a little bit greater.
Okay, so having it out until October is actually financially a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the progress payment to Lamp Inc. in the amount of $577,399 for the Public Works Facility Project on Town Hall Road.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Ms. Fodor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Paulson? Aye. Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Motion passes, please.
Thank you. With that, we would ask for a motion your consideration of a motion to approve payment number 1 and number 2 for the UV replacement project to Boiler Construction Company in the amount of $507,692.14, page 83 of your packet. Mr. Paulson is online to answer any questions.
Didn't we approve that already?
We approved the project.
These are the project.
Is this on budget with what the original project was approved at, Mr. Paulson?
Yes, in fact, it's 25,600 below the approved amount.
We
There
did
were-
approve. Less.
That's what.
Okay.
There was a change order that you saw previously to reduce the contract value.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve payment number 1 and number 2 for the UV replacement project to Bowler Construction in the amount of $570,692.14.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, will The clerk call the roll.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mrs. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Mrs. Fodor.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hedges. Now we'll turn it over to our new contracted chief for his police report.
I don't really have anything too remarkable to point out in the report this time, if you have any questions.
I do.
Yeah.
More car thefts.
Uh-oh.
We've had more auto thefts there. Page 95.
Look at one,
So we,
We're up to 4.
year to date.
Yeah, and then 2 last year.
The
So
year to date, so
But we
the
had
year to date, that was
once.
one, pretty much one incident. We
yeah.
had three stolen in one incident from a local business.
Yes, I do remember that one. So then this one,
And the one
Was-
more, honestly, right now as I sit here, I can't say what that was.
it wasn't like residential, somebody, you don't know.
I don't know.
That
One's not bad.
Yeah, well, it's not good, but it's not.
Well, yeah.
one's
Yeah.
One's fine.
we didn't have auto thefts in the last few years. The last 2 we had them.
We had a gang, didn't we, from?
We had them coming and
We've had a
stealing
couple
from the
every year,
car.
Yeah.
as they come in, it's what was described before, when people leave the cars in the driveway with the
Right.
keys in the key. We've had
A couple years in a row
Yeah.
with
Alright.
me, and I know that before that, they had the same problem.
I remember one of those, and I think that was the one from last, the one of the 2 from last year, but I mean, usually those were just, people seeing if the car door is open, stealing change and whatever else electronics they could get into a car, but
I believe that I remember this now. I believe this was a trailer stolen up at the truck stop.
Oh.
And we do get those, like at every few months,
okay.
because they'll leave them sit there for days. And so sometimes they'll leave them sit there for days, and when they come back, they're gone. And, that is something that comes in. I believe that's what this one
And it
was.
falls under an auto theft because it's a
Because it's a
vehicle.
vehicle, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little more concerned with the big increase in the dispatches for service.
It's 20, yeah. I mean, it's summertime. That's what a lot of that is.
Yeah.
Just the increase in the dispatch and, and it should be obviously a red cell instead of a green cell. Sometimes I miss those. But we did have a 29% increase in the dispatch calls for service.
Are most of those through county?
Yeah,
They
those,
don't call you?
no. If they call us, generally speaking, we just transfer them over to the county and let the county take the call. Yep. And then, we did have a big decrease in alarms, as we moved into the summertime.
Guess why?
Chief, on your reporting, are the all dispatched calls, I'm just, the question comes because of the last line on this report. Are all dispatch calls for service, does that include any time a neighboring community is covering our community as a call? So is it anytime county sends somebody to within village limits to cover a call, no matter which
Yes.
department covers it?
Yep.
So that may be a neighboring county, if we were busy at the time, also helping.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last line is anytime we're going to outside of the village limits to go help.
Yeah, because it comes in, yes, all those are included in the overall.
Okay.
dispatch call.
Great.
Because if it comes in, if it's our jurisdiction, it still comes into that number.
Which is probably why you want it to go through county, because they understand if you're already out on calls and they need to get a,
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
they put all the information into the computer, and then the call comes in, so that we have all the tracking.
Yeah.
In place.
Chief, the project, the emergency operations plan, it's on hold waiting for the new admin rule.
Which is supposed to be coming out, and it has not yet. And what I go to a monthly Office of Emergency Management meeting with the county.
Okay,
And so we're waiting for direction from them because that new admin rule is changing requirements for the emergency action plan or for the emergency operations plan. So we're waiting for that new rule to come out so we don't do a bunch of work and then have it be completely different or so whatever the new mandates are, because the way that the state's doing it now is Kane County is required to submit a Kane County emergency operations plan to the state. And then, but then as part of that, they're also required to collect emergency operations plans from all municipalities
Okay.
in Kane County. And so there'll be certain criteria that they must meet for Kane County to accept them, to then include that in their overall plan to the state. So I'm just waiting for that new admin rule to be published, and it's supposed to be anytime. And then I've also got the new fire chief is he's gonna help with this, so between him and his personnel, they're gonna help us put together the new plan too, because quite frankly, they're typically fire in general is much better at putting together those plans and more experienced. So I'm just gonna tap into their resources and have them help me put it together. But at this point, they too are aware of this new admin rule coming, so we're just waiting.
Is it a state admin rule?
Yeah.
So it's them, it's not federal, it's the state has to come up with their plan first.
It's the-
Okay,
Now, the state may be coming from the federal as
they
a,
might be waiting from that.
yeah, they may,
Okay.
but it's the state that we're waiting for,
Okay,
the word from the state.
okay.
I'd like to commend Officer Paradise. We had an incident, minor graffiti at Siler the other day, and I called and had him dispatched to the wrong park, and he showed up to the right park. And by the end of the day, he had viewed the video. They found out who it was. There wasn't no damage really doing anything to him, but in one day, Paradise had that whole thing taken care of. So him and the detective, whoever that was.
Agreed.
Okay.
Still patrol officer, but he's been doing their investigation. Yes.
Okay, streets report. Anybody have anything? If you look at the amount of asphalt that's been patched, that hot box has really saved the village a bunch of money, because out of the 32 tons they used, normally half of it would be thrown away. By 2 hours, 3 hours later, it's too cold to use, so they got to throw it away, where they can use it all now with the hot box. Saved the village a bunch of money.
Including Miss Lyons' new beautiful parking space in the back.
New patch in the back.
Gotta know people.
That's right.
Okay, let's look at the financial report. We need to approve 961.97 for employees. What?
But there's a financial report. After,
Oh,
sorry,
Ms. Lyons.
Any questions about the financial?
I just want to point,
It's the year-end report.
I want to point out that this is the cash basis year-end report. So we do use a modified cash basis, so there will be some adjustments made. This is what I'll call period 12, where the village actually will experience 13 periods in each fiscal year where all the adjustments are made to bring to the modified cash basis.
Apologies, I didn't send this beforehand. Can you speak to, we had already budgeted a deficit and then we spent even more than that. Can you speak to the general fund being so far as a deficit?
So the biggest piece of that was the fact that we did not finance some of the, we did not finance the new snowplow. And the actual second snowplow chassis came in ahead of schedule and was, actually expended during this fiscal year when we thought that it would arrive during fiscal year 26.
So when you say we didn't finance it, it means that we just paid cash
We
for
paid
it?
cash, yes.
All right. Thank you. But overall, it looks like our village coffers, like the staff did a good job of being fiscally minded. I'm sure it'll be spent in this fiscal year.
One of those.
And that would take you to the accounts payable.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now we'll go to accounts payable. We have to approve 961.97 for elected officials, boards, of trustees, yada, yada. So I need a motion to approve 961.97 to be paid on or before July 2nd. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on the 961.97? Hearing none. Please call roll.
Ms. Palastrellini?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Mrs. Fodor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
All right.
Motion passes. Four zero.
Now the big one. $849,076.65. Any questions on this?
Yes.
Does the salt that's coming in, if that's still just payments that we're bringing up for what we're required to do?
What page are you on?
Page 15 of the report.
Those salt payments are actually, for water treatments. Those are those Mark's salt. But we do have one more, I think it was a big number, like 880 tons of salt that you'll see coming up.
Okay.
That's going to fulfill the last of the state fiscal year 25, contract.
Okay, so then we'll be paying that then, and that completes what we owed from last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Thank you.
see that in July.
It's not a question about the number, but a large majority of this is transition fees going to other governmental agencies. And we have that much construction that, or have we, because we're cutting them a check every month, right?
We are. Yes.
We're at
So
150 permits today, and that's how many we budgeted for the whole year. We're on pace.
We're 150 year to date.
Yes.
Okay, I was like,
Calendar year.
calendar.
We're on pace to do 300 new home permits this year.
and we budgeted for 150 is what we thought we were gonna do.
And it looks like we could do 400 next year with the two new projects that we're expecting.
It's going crazy out there.
Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, it's an indicator of the growth in the village. I'll wait for new business.
And it's kind of an
Those were
announcement.
new permits. So I think there were 50 last month. Was that
There
right?
was 33 in May, there was 18 today, and then, Karen took in another 15 today.
11, 11 and 2.
In the years, right?
Well, I had 11 today. I had 13 just today. Yeah,
So
of NRPs.
we're at 31 for the month, I believe.
But that's such an anomaly because everywhere I go, it's that there's no building, we need housing, we need housing. And we're thriving like crazy here, so.
It's pretty much all Prairie Ridge right now.
Yeah.
But we'll see, as we've talked before, Tuscany Woods has now been purchased by Ryan Development, Ryan Homes. And then we have the subdivision. You also saw some preliminary plans on South 72 over by the Red Ox, which is another 350 homes.
Well, Tams is sold out, right?
Thames is sold out. In
Sold.
fact, they're starting their punch list just this week. Tim's starting on the punch list. Every lot is built and most of them are planned golf carts.
And, I mean, good planning.
That was 180 homes in 3 years. These projects tend to build about 50
Yeah.
homes per project per year.
I know of one town that cannot build any new homes, cannot do any expansion of businesses because their sewer system is at the max. So until they address that sewer system, they can't add anything new to the town, which makes me think about you all the time.
Planned ahead for that.
But it is an issue.
We built our plant bigger because
Yeah.
of that.
Um,
Can I ask about the Lauterbach? 27,800 on page, is that the audit?
Yes.
Okay,
We expect to have it before you in August.
excellent.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular accounts payable for $849,076.65 to be paid on or before July 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Fodor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
And Ms. Palastrellini?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, then we'll move on to the village board committee reports to Mr. Kelly.
BDC report will be handled by Mr. Khan. I believe you have a 30-minute deep analysis.
Thank you, trustee Kelly.
No, that's public comment, sir.
Yeah, he's public.
The Business Development Commission met 2 weeks ago. The primary topic of that meeting was to go over the Kane County Economic Development Strategy Plan and how that aligns with the village's own economic development strategy. The biggest takeaway was that we need to make sure our voice is heard at the county level. We've seen recently where some decisions have been made that go against what the board wishes and what the board has adopted in the comprehensive plan. So one thing the King County decided in their plan was we should be the primary voice for the whole county, and staff recommended that, well, we disagree with that. We need to make sure our voice is heard at the county level and work with the county to make sure our goals align and we're not being superseded. So staff is gonna make sure that we're involved with the King County Economic Development Corporation that they're starting up and make sure our voice is heard all throughout the process whenever they're making decisions or putting plans together, that we're there and have a seat at the meeting. And the other thing that was talked about was, the importance of a comprehensive plan and how that's going to dictate, the next 20+ years for the village. That came up again as a top discussion. That was it.
Question for you, or for staff. We often will see elected officials at village events. We've seen Senator Severson, Representative Keicher. We've seen other representatives. We've had the county chairwoman here once, I believe, the one time she came and presented. I don't really see the county involved in any of the other stuff. Do we have an ongoing relationship? Like, is staff talking with the county often? Do we have a good relationship? It sounds like from the last meeting, there wasn't, not staff side, but not a good relationship between village and county when they basically dismissed our asks.
You're speaking about the solar farms, right?
100%. To me, it felt indicative of a relationship, and I'm wondering what staff feels the relationship is like.
If I could speak just briefly to that, then I will. I've asked Mo to become involved with their Economic Development Council, which I have been and Josh was before. And he actually missed one meeting because he was on vacation this past Friday, but he has been. He's also actually went to college, I believe, with the zoning administrator over there, who handles solar farms. So we did everything right. You passed a resolution, Mo and the mayor both testified and they voted in favor of it. And even our county board member voted against us. Now they're using the state law as an excuse, which don't get into now. But for the most part, yes, we do have a good relationship with King County at that level.
Okay.
And I would say the county chair has also been very responsive anytime I've had to reach out to her. And she and I know each other pretty well.
Okay.
I think Mike would say the same.
All right. So that as you're looking at economic development, as you become involved into it, that incident is not indicative of the relationship between the village and the county.
I think so. Would you agree, Paul?
Yeah, I think we have a decent relationship with at least the staff. I don't talk with the board members of the county that much or at all. But I do. Chris Toth is the economic development guy at the county, so him and I have been in pretty regular communication about what the next steps are, because they're opening or they're creating an economic development organization or economic development corporation. They haven't decided what they're going to call it. So I've been making sure to, like, whenever that meeting is or whenever they have discussions, keep us apprised or invite me. So I'm there, whether it's a Zoom meeting or in-person meeting, we're making sure that we're sitting at the table with them.
Okay. It's great to hear that that's kind of an outlier incident, that you've got that great little relationship.
Is that economic development corp, is it going to be separate from the county?
Based on what their strategy said, yes, it's gonna be a separate quasi-government organization. So it's gonna be separate, but underneath the umbrella, like funded through the county, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, I know of other counties and I'm talking to municipalities, they had to cough up money themselves.
You're speaking of Peoria County by any chance?
Pardon?
Peoria County by any chance? Okay. Because they have a similar one, and that happens to be Mr. Ray. Josh Ray is on that.
Okay. Well, this one's a little bit further west and it's the municipalities have to cough up certain amounts of money.
They can't mandate that we do. If we want to participate, there might be a participation fee if they're nowhere near that far in yet.
Okay, just keeping that in mind. Okay.
Anything else, Mo or Trustee Kelly?
The next meeting will be,
August. They canceled July.
yeah, July is canceled because of attendance, so it'll be the second Wednesday of August.
August 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to new business.
I have a question based on what I've noticed going on in Pingree this week. So I've seen, I don't remember the exact date or year, but they recently repainted their water tower on the corner of 47, 20, 72. And this week they have been, I'm gonna assume they've been pressure washing it to get all the mildew and gunk off the underside of the tank, which happens. And maybe this is for Mr. Paulson, but is that an economically feasible thing to do for a municipality to extend the life of a water tower before repainting? And if so, would anybody happen to know the cost of cleaning the underside of a water tower?
You know that they're just cleaning it, they're not preparing to paint it.
No, they
No, they just painted,
probably within 5 years.
yeah, it was, yeah. Fine.
And we've washed our water towers before.
Okay.
We've washed Tuscany Woods, we've
Yeah, I was
washed
here on hands.
Camp Farm twice, at
Okay.
least that I remember.
And I'm asking because I've been at the high school every day this week and that one's starting to look.
It's starting to look, yep.
Crummy underneath.
Yeah.
So
If you, hang on, I can tell you what we paid the last time.
to pressure wash? And is that what they're doing? Are they pressure washing it? Okay.
Yep.
No repairs, just.
They actually will, get the specs on the paint and go to Sherwin-Williams and buy, like some stuff if there are nicks and
Like
those types
touch-up
of things. But
paint?
we
Yeah,
have,
touch. Okay, a little-
yeah, it's seriously a touch-up paint.
Yeah,
but
those
they
guys
have been
those guys are
very
hanging out there on
complimentary of
ropes,
our
so.
paints and the
Well,
way they've
he's,
been
no,
painted.
he's up on a
We
lift.
have to do that.
There's two guys on a lift with the pressure washer. Up and down. We're just watching them go all
Yeah.
the way around. And it took them they're on day 3, they're going on day 3 and looks like they're almost done.
See, ours, they haven't taken that long, 3 days.
I don't think so.
No,
Okay.
if you bear with me, I.
Sure.
Well, while she's doing that,
Yeah,
for new
and-
business,
Yeah.
something to bring up. For all the people that have got some age on them, remember when we were all little kids and you had to get your bike, the police department came to your school and you got a little bike license? Would that be something the village might be interested in for all these scooters running around? That we have a training class or whatever you want to call it in school and actually issue them a little sticker for their scooter?
Voluntarily,
Mhm.
voluntary
I
program.
don't remember if we had,
It was.
I don't know if it was voluntary when we were little or not.
There are places where they actually have little towns set up with
Little
stop
safety course,
signs.
yeah.
Kids can ride through. There's one of those pure.
Well, I was thinking about just training them, so when they're out in our streets, they got an idea on traffic laws and.
Yeah, I
Stop
think
sign.
Chief Pam must have had to leave the room for a minute, but
Yeah.
that's something we could do, but it'd be a matter of personnel. We don't really, when our police are on the street, as you know, most of the time. Well, now that he's back, maybe, but. This
That's the way we assign
work.
work.
Has to do with bike safety, and is there anything we could do for bike safety training, trustee Coe?
Or scooters
For scooters,
to train.
when we were all little, we had to go through bike safety training through school, and you got a little, I don't remember what it was, something for your bike. A bike license or
I
whatever.
can look into a bike safety. We don't have anybody certified to teach bike safety right now, or do
I'm not
you?
talking bikes though, I'm talking for scooters.
Scooters, yeah.
So when all these kids are around town, they've at least been halfway trained, because for what I see, they ain't getting training at home.
Well,
Okay.
and maybe their parents don't know.
Right.
Because they didn't go through the same kind of training, because we missed a few
Yeah.
generations, but that is something that those of us with little age on us may remember doing. And since I am originally from Peoria, I've been to Bicycle Safety Town, and my parents would not let me ride independently until I passed my bicycle safety course. Because
It's just
they
food
wanted
for
to make
thought.
sure that I was not.
Because they're not going away.
Even if there's like a third party that can come in and do it, so we're not taking an officer off the street or.
Right.
We could look into that. We'll get back to you on
I
that.
mean,
Or
Thank
the
you.
elite scouts that are.
Yeah,
looking
and
for
Doug makes a good
projects.
point. It might be something we could partner with the park district.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a good idea.
Thank
I
you.
do, since you brought it up, I'll make very briefly. There was a lot of Facebook posting today about a guy on a motorcycle, like orange, all orange. I don't know if somebody saw it or not. It turned out, that we actually, Doug made an arrest on this person. It was, turned out, looked like a 10-year-old kid. It turned out to be a 42-year-old guy who had warrants out. We don't need to go into all the details, but there was an arrest made. And I noticed all over Facebook this morning, the exact description of this person, and he's off the street now. And there were warrants out for other reasons out of town, so it's a little more serious than that.
What brought it to Facebook? They, just because he looked,
Because they saw him all over town, and people were commenting on Facebook, this guy's dangerous, he's running through stop signs, he's doing all these weird things.
Oh, you know what? It has been a lot
Yeah.
of self-policing.
In fact, he was up on set.
Ruin it for everyone,
Yeah.
hold each other accountable.
The unusual thing about this guy is and this was posted on Facebook too, Facebook, he was all over 72, right, on both sides of the road. And he happened to pass me at one point.
Passed me, and then he passed me.
And then I,
Oops.
and that was
Did he
the
wait?
end.
and then
In
he
my
sat,
unmarked car.
and he sat at the mobile station for 30 minutes to
You said
wait
it
for
was
the chief to show up.
His little motorcycle, did he go down?
This is a 250. I mean, it's a decent sized bike. He
Okay.
actually-
It's a bike that could have had a license plate on it,
Yeah.
but he had a suspended driver's license and no insurance. And all this.
Did it go down Romkey?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep, I did.
South of Rocky.
Thank you, chief.
Well, and to that point, I know a lot of people don't watch this, but if they are watching, please don't post it on Facebook. Call the police when you see that stuff
Yeah.
right away. Like,
Right.
they can actually do something, but Facebook does nothing.
That's why I look at Facebook in the morning and
Yes.
I call the police when we need to.
And we might not be available, but we don't mind if we get the
No,
call.
but there's
we
still
go.
a call.
Like when Jay called, we didn't have anybody available, right?
And I was kind of annoyed, by the way.
We were on there. Well, we followed up and.
Yeah.
Get
But
it done,
posting it to
so.
Facebook will get you nowhere.
Well, it got my attention.
Well, yes, it does.
But-
You're getting, and the police watch Facebook too.
Yeah, they do.
Stupid.
There's no guarantee that somebody will look at
In the
Facebook today.
daytime.
But if the call goes in, you know, at least it's luck.
There's a record.
One more neat piece of new business, and it is inspired by something that's going on in Pingree. The residents there have asked for bat houses to be put near their ponds because that will help control mosquito populations in a very effective manner, more so than spraying. And it will also allow proliferation of the bugs that we do want, like our fireflies and butterflies and all of those fun little friends that, you know.
Bats
everything
don't
is
eat those?
Happy to see. Bats don't eat them as much because they're not as tasty as mosquitoes apparently. So, just something that I would like staff to
So
investigate if
just
possible.
to that point, we recently were asked to do a survey by Metro West on behalf of Pingree Grove. So we responded. So I think they're still in the studying stages of that.
Yes.
And they're waiting for the results of the survey as well. The survey question was, do you have a mosquito abatement program? And so do you use bat houses? And we said, yes, we do, but no, we don't.
Right.
So we're waiting for the results of that as well. And if it comes back with any merit, we'll certainly bring it to the attention.
One thing as well, to what was stated during the building report. Just a question, I don't know if it's new business. Sorry, census, where are we at in the process of the updated census? Because the housing is exploding and so.
When you get your newsletter, it will say that, the census has been resurrected and that, our official count date will be September 15th. We just got an email today with some of the job descriptions that we're going to start advertising, so you'll see us kick off, some social media on that very
One
soon.
of the things we have to do is, it's our responsibility to help them recruit pretty high-paying census jobs. They're full-time jobs for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. There's actually a supervisor position posted right now. So there'll be quite a few full-time jobs. They don't want part-time people, but they're full-time temporary jobs that could be for 6 to 8 weeks. These will be people that be going out and following up the account from the online. So if you know anybody that's interested, when
Yeah.
that comes around.
I was
they ask
very
your help.
nervous actually about not getting the money
Great.
in the pipeline or closer to getting it.
Any other announcements? Any-
I do have the report on the washing. The last tower that we washed was in 2021 at a cost of $6,500 and it was the Hamps Farm big giant tower.
Oh, it was. Oh, very nice. Okay.
For announcements, I do want to thank the Lions Club for bringing the circus back to
Yep.
town. I know there were some people in this room that were there. I was there with my family. And it was just a neat, you talk about like a small town fun thing to do. Even on the second show when it rained a little bit, everybody was still having fun. It was hot in the tent. I will say that. It was warm. But it was really kind of cool. So thank you to the Lions Club for bringing that activity to town.
Were you at the second show?
I was at the second show.
So the lion didn't perform in the first show. Did he perform in the second one?
Yeah, he rolled over and then took a nap.
That's one roll over more than the first show. He was kind of hot.
Oh, I don't blame him. I was on that road.
No, you got a lot of experience.
But no, it was great when the community organizations can do stuff like that and everybody turned out. I don't know how the first show was, but the second show was pretty.
Greg was at the first show.
Yeah, the second show was full inside there.
Yeah, very good. Great job. They like your bearded lady and all.
Bearded lady.
No, I mean, it was a small circus, right? We're not talking Ringling Brothers. But it was, they had some really neat acts in there. But the cool thing is you looked around and it was the whole community that was in there and lots of kids and families and.
They've been here before, I would say about 12-ish.
They used to come every year. For years and years and years. Laura, you would know that.
My kids didn't even know what a circus was, because we haven't
Oh.
come to Ringling Brothers, have been closed for,
Every day.
Right.
they don't know what, they didn't know what a circus was.
They didn't grow up in Bozo.
No, they didn't, Bozo was off the air, they didn't know.
I wanted that. Anything on executive session?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.